Um, uh, we have a set of grant programs that we want to walk you through and get you up to speed on. I will just say before we get started with each one of them, it wasn't that long ago that our agency was a grant taker. In other words, we applied for the grants for some of our programs. We still do that today. However, our agency over the last few years has become more of an entity that actually offers grant opportunities for others. It's growing. It seems like every time we turn around, there's an opportunity for us to do that. That's certainly the case with these programs. The specialty crop program is probably our oldest and more mature program over the years that we've had over the years. But we thought it would be good for the board to hear about each of the programs and the opportunities. And then certainly the board is a critical piece as you're out in your communities to help folks find those opportunities and point them our way if you think that somebody could use the grant programs, because the dollars that we have don't do any good if anybody doesn't know about it. And we're working really hard to get the word out for those programs. I'm pretty excited about this. I will just tell you, we have talked about from our previous conversation, we're feeling a little bit like we missing some opportunities. I think there's more dollars for our state to get. We struggle with the capacity and we don't really have a formalized grants office. So you may hear us talk a little bit more about that. We do it individually and we do it very well with the staff we have. They do a great job. I'm super proud of each one of these programs. And of course, the last one is the meat capacity grants. You've heard me talk about that over and over again, so you'll hear more about that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Amy. Are you ready?
Yep, I am. I don't see any slides though, so maybe that's...
Oh, we'll get those up.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
And the volume seems a little low.
It does, yeah.
Please. Thank you.
Amy, can you see those now?
I do. Thanks.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right.
Introduce yourself and get going.
Okay. Well, good morning, Chair Miller, Acting Director Ryan, and members of the board. I'm Amy Gilroy, Farm to School Manager at the Oregon Department of Agriculture. Before we start talking about some of our newer grant programs, I did want to share with the board a new initiative that's underway, actually nationally, but also here in Oregon. And this is actually from Undersecretary Vilsack's Food System Transformation Framework. These are the new USDA regional food business centers. And so this is a new 5-year initiative that recently launched nationwide. And these are these centers are being announced by USDA via cooperative agreement with different regions. So you'll see here, there's 12 centers across the country. And the mission of the centers, you can see that there on the left-hand side, is to provide a suite of resources to help emerging small farms and businesses enter into local and regional markets. And they're really hoping that this can help build a more resilient supply chain that can hopefully or ideally withstand some of the unforeseeable disruptions like we faced during the pandemic in the supply chain. We are going to be Oregon will be part of this Northwest and Rocky Mountain Center, which you'll see there in the upper left-hand corner of the map in the dark green. And so we'll be joining those other 5 states in the region. And essentially the centers will have, these are not physical centers. These are more virtual or coordination centers. Oregon State University and ODA will be the leads for the center in Oregon. And they will basically have 3 main responsibilities. The first one is around coordination. So USDA is really hoping that by investing in these centers that we can improve the coordination of local, state, and federal resources in a way that builds, I think, more transparency and trust in how funding programs work among those emerging farms and food businesses who maybe haven't had a chance to use them. They're also expecting us to design and deliver appropriate technical assistance to producers, and also leverage what technical assistance already exists in the states and regions. And obviously at ODA we have a lot of that. And then also capacity building. They will be offering small grants through what they're calling a business builder grant program. And the idea behind these funds is to help small and emerging businesses and farms with business planning, financial coaching, product development for value-added goods, and also some small funds for equipment purchases. Next slide. So this is so each region will actually have its own web presence. So this is actually something USDA, Colorado State University, and as I mentioned, Oregon State University are the co-leads for our region. So this is our new website that was just launched. And you can see the website link up there on the left-hand corner if you want to jot that down or come back to it. But essentially, this is where the 6 states in our region will post upcoming trainings and initiatives and events that will be held throughout the duration of the grant program, and just other announcements that will be relevant for farms and food businesses in the region. So this will be an important place. Farms and businesses can also find us on this site, so they can submit a request for some of our technical assistance, or can submit requests for more information about any of the programs that we might have running in the region. So we're hoping this becomes a more interactive place for folks. So I also should mention and wanted to share that the center our center will have $30 million over the 5-year period. So roughly each of the states will receive about $1 million each year to support some of those responsibilities that I mentioned on the previous page. The majority of the funds will be dispersed through technical assistance and those business builder grants that I mentioned. And again, I think they're really hoping that we can leverage other existing programs and initiatives with these dollars. So I think ODA is really well poised for that with some of the new grants that we have coming out. Next slide. So this is the structure of what USDA is expecting the centers to look like. And so just, I didn't mention, but these are the 6 states that are part of our region down there in the right-hand corner. So Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and Washington. So we've already had one of our first center meetings last month in Colorado, and that was really the first time for the 6 states that are part of the center to really get together. Most of the departments of agriculture are leads with university extensions and other partners representing the states. And then you'll see there also that we're going to be working on different theme areas under the center. So I won't go into a lot of detail about those today, mostly because we're still determining what those initiatives will look like. But one of the areas that has changed a little bit is that first one around building the meat supply capacity in the region. We've actually expanded that to include the animal protein supply chain, and not only meat products, but there was a lot of input from Oregon and Washington partners because of our coastal communities and our fisheries that we wanted to be supportive of any of the needs that they might have. But you'll see that those are the theme areas. We're also going to be working on creating more diverse markets for producers that are using climate resilient agriculture practices, connecting and scaling food entrepreneurs. Obviously, we have a very budding food entrepreneur community and ethos on the West Coast. So we want to help some of those new businesses connect to markets. And then right-sizing the investing in infrastructure dollars. A lot of small businesses can't metabolize large amounts of money very quickly. So we really want to take a look at and support farms and food businesses in terms of what grant programs or what financing might be right for them. So the theme teams will have leads, and we have a lot of different partners, a network of partners that are actually those theme team leads. Some of those are OSU employees and staff and others across the region. And then I also wanted to mention that we'll be working with a number of stakeholders that represent these groups down in the left-hand corner here. We'll be working with, especially in Oregon, we'll be working with a lot of organizations representing producers of color and indigenous producers. We expect to be coordinating with some of the tribes, veteran farmers, farmers that are accessing the AgriAbility program, and then new entry and urban farmers, working with some of our beginning farmer programming in the state. So those are a lot of the advisors that we're going to be working with to sort of drive the direction of the center over these next few years. So I don't know if I have another slide, but I did want to mention that at the same time that the USDA announced the 12 centers, they announced almost in the same breath another block of funding specifically to help the middle of the supply chain. And this is a new resilient food system infrastructure grant that's designed to help those businesses there. So I'm going to turn it over to Gabrielle so she can talk more about this program.
Thanks so much, Amy. Yeah, so as Amy mentioned, USDA has released a set of dollars that they're calling the Resilient Food Systems Infrastructure Grant. This is essentially to build resilience in the middle of the supply chain to strengthen local and regional food systems. Really what they're looking at is funding projects that are benefiting small, medium-sized processors and producers to really enhance and grow and strengthen our food system. A lot of the idea behind this is when COVID hit and a lot of our transportation and other areas within our supply chain had to be shut down or had to engage some personal protection equipment and distancing, really showed the USDA that there are some holes within our food system. So Oregon is really excited to be one of the first states that got our whole project accepted, and we are going to run this pretty similarly to some other federal funding that we have. But the exciting part about this grant is there's two really unique tracks within this system. So we've got the simplified equipment grant only, which is anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000. And it's just what it says. It's only purchasing equipment for the middle of the supply chain processors. This piece of equipment could be anything from oh gosh, now I'm blanking on equipment that we could purchase, but it's just equipment only. It is no infrastructure side of things. The other side of the project is infrastructure proposals, and those projects are anywhere from $100,000 to $2 million. We are going to do it as a disbursement-based program, and there is some matching funds that are required for this program. So as we work through the new dollars and understanding how it's going to affect our agricultural community within Oregon, we're really looking for projects that affect more than one producer and really kind of look at the projects that work with historically underserved groups and communities, as well as maybe products that we don't necessarily see all of the time. Pretty much every crop is allowable within this program except meat, seafood, dairy, a few other ones in there as well. We're going to go out for requests for applications for the infrastructure projects January 1 of this next year, and we're going to close the end of February. We hope to give people about 2 months to sit with the applications, to look at them, to understand what they need to supply to us. We are also going to go out for the simplified equipment grants February 1 and close the end of February. So we're looking at only about a month for those because those applications are much shorter, much easier, not as big and as potentially scary as an equipment or as an infrastructure project might be for a group. There is more information on our website. I apologize. There is more information on our website. As you can see here on the bottom, there's a direct link to our RFSI page. USDA is still in the process of essentially planning this grant, even though we already have awards out to the states. So what we're going to be doing is really trying to keep that webpage up to date and the most correct information that we have at the time. We're really hoping that not much changes between now and when we open, but there are still a few things that USDA is figuring out that we will have to then turn around and implement within our program. A portion of this grant as well is going to be a state-led project. It's about $1 million for our state to do something that we see as beneficial to the middle of the supply chain. We are still building out that information, that whole system. So if you have an idea, please feel free to email the Resilient Food Systems email as you see at the bottom of this page. I'm sure Carla can send this whole slide deck out so you guys have everything. But as I said, we're still trying to build that program out. So if you have ideas, feel free to email us. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
The other program I'm going to talk about today is the USDA
Gabrielle.
special. Oh, yes.
Gabrielle, yeah, let's pause for just a second.
Sure.
Let's see if there's any questions about these two programs. And before we do that, can you remind me, Gabrielle, how much we have to allocate for the RFSI? Because I can't remember. It's 5. What is it? Total?
It's in total, it's about 5 million. I think it's 5.9 million. So we've got $1 million internal. We've got some dollars to supply some personnel for this program. And then we've split the rest. I believe it was 60-40 with the infrastructure grants receiving 60% of the rest and the equipment grants receiving the remaining 40. Off of the top of my head, I think it's something like 2.1 million for infrastructure, I believe. So that's why if you look at it, the RFSI for other states, you might see a higher total allowable for infrastructure grants because of how they broke out their equipment versus infrastructure dollars. So we sent out a survey earlier this year to our middle of the supply chain folks, and they responded with wanting a higher percentage of equipment grants. So that's kind of our funding. I'm sorry, I don't have the correct numbers off the top of my head. I haven't been in that application in a couple of days.
Yeah, no, so it's okay. So there's approximately $5 million out there in individual categories. As we get further along in the process, we will bring that back to the board on the categories and what they are, so you have them more. But questions?
Yes, Director Boyer.
First of all, when I saw both your names on the agenda, I was looking forward to seeing you both. So I'm kind of bummed I'm not seeing you today in person. Let's see, Amy, you first. Let's see. So, and then hearing Gabrielle's presentation, seems there's a lot of different funding pools for equipment. Am I getting that? I'm hearing yours and then hearing Gabrielle and then knowing there's another grant opportunity for equipment. Is that 3 different grant opportunities for equipment in this program? Is that kind of what I'm gathering?
Chair Miller, Member Boyer, with the Regional Food Business Center dollars, those are going to be very small grants, probably anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000. And my impression from talking to USDA is that they are, and our state team, OSU and others, is that they're expecting some of those dollars to be used for very small equipment purchases for post-harvest processing, but the majority of those business builder grants are really meant to help prepare the business to be able to be competitive in applying for other grant programs. So a lot of the business builder funding will help support some of the other aspects of the business. So whether that's business planning or helping them with access to different financial tools, whatever they might need. I think it's really about the soft infrastructure that they need for their business to grow. But there will be some of those funds. And again, we're still determining. In fact, OSU is leading the business builder grant program. Lauren Gwynn over there is leading that business builder grant program for the whole region. So they're still designing that, but those are some of the parameters that that USDA has set forth for us. So the majority of it will not be for equipment. And then just one more comment is I will see you today because I'll be at the lunch at Eugene School District. So
Thank you. Good.
I would say these two are not in competition to each other. They are meant to be complementary, and using the basin one for the other. That's how USDA tried to put it out there in a very quick time frame, and we're meeting weekly as a team to try to make sure that we build both of them and are participate in both places. The goal being obviously that the money gets out and that people have an opportunity to put it to use today. So that's the goal. And we don't have all
I
the
think that
answers because we're really working really hard to put it in place.
I think that's a good
Yeah.
distinction that Lauren just made about, the regional food business center dollars are really designed to support the individual business, and these RFSI dollars are really designed to help support the middle of the supply chain in accessing these businesses that are taking advantage of the center's offering. So that's a really good comment, Lauren.
Director Boyer, you had another question.
Thank you. So Amy, for you, I heard you say 30 million was coming to our region. Is that correct? Or is that just to the state?
That 30 million for those six spread across those 6 states.
Okay. And then you had mentioned a $1 million a year. Was confused as to what that would be.
Well, I think that's I don't know exactly how that's going to pencil out. I'm still waiting for some calculations and figures, or everyone's still waiting for those calculations from Colorado State University, who's the lead on our region. But essentially what they've told us is that around $1 million will be available to each state per year in the form of staffing support. So Oregon does have each state will have a coordinator for the regional food business centers. So Oregon has hired a coordinator. And so that $1 million will be used to help support staff, and then also design some of those programs or technical assistance offerings, events, conferences, trainings, whatever it might be. And then I believe that also includes the allocation for the Business Builder grant program per year.
Thank you. I still have, sorry. Gabrielle, this is for you. I just have one question. You had talked about the match for both of these, the simplified equipment and the infrastructure. What is the ratio for match? Do you know yet?
Yes, so the ratio is going to actually depend on the size of the business and whether the business meets certain qualifications. So there is, I think it's 50% match for most grants, and then it's a 25% match for small producers. And they use the business administration framework for small and medium-sized producers, as well as historically underserved communities also get 25% match. I believe there is no match for the equipment, if I'm remembering that correctly. But I can get you the correct language from USDA that gives you the whole breakdown of who does what.
All right, thank you. And then I just have one comment. So when you were talking about how you're going to split up the 5 million, and it sounded like roughly there would be 2.1 million available for infrastructure. That seems like only one person could qualify for all of that funding if the maximum of infrastructure projects are 2 million. So the potential of only one person getting funded is there when you just have that much money. So thank you.
All right, Director Lopez.
Yes, thank you, Director Miller. Question for Gabrielle. So I think Barbara kind of touched on this a little bit, but mine goes a little bit deeper into the cycle. So let's say somebody applies for this January 1st, 2024. It's equipment that they'll need in the springtime. How quickly are these applications being processed and money dispersed to those individuals that are applying for this?
That is a fantastic question. So at this time, we are hoping to get those funds out very quickly. the timeline what we have built in is about a month for reviewing the applications that come in with our advisory panel that we have established. From there, we are going to take about another month to review them internally, approve what applications are going forward, and then we will work on getting a clarification to the USDA. So we have to apply to USDA by May 24, 2024 for them to review the applications, approve the work that's going to be done, and then we can move forward. Most of the time, in my experience, USDA likes to take their time in reviewing those applications, but they have assured us as states that they will get back with clarifications within 90 days of submitting that application. So we will hopefully have word back June, July. We might have to go through one round of clarification with USDA, and from there we should be able to start the agreement process. Most of the time, agreement process takes 1 to 2 weeks, depending on the subgrantees reviewing the agreement that we put forward. So I'm hoping to have the funds out by October latest. That is the schedule. We essentially built this schedule off of other federal grants that we have within the department, and using that framework, I would say October is probably a healthy estimation.
Any
And-
further question?
Just one more comment real quick before we move on. There is a one pager in your packet on this program that we have, I believe, on our website. If you want to take a look at that, that has a little bit of examples and some other things that might help you. And then just to follow up with that, like all of our grant programs, I mean, our intent, Miguel, the process is never fast enough. I'll just tell you that. However, we want to be as thoughtful as we can to make sure that the proposals get their due review and that we understand what people have given to us in the time frame that we have. I've had conversations with USDA, with Jonathan at the various NASDA. Their intent is to get this moving. It's important to get the money out on the ground. So I think we're moving probably as fast as we can in the nation for this, which actually is pretty amazing given how fast it got rolled out and that. So I'm pretty proud of USDA and their flexibility and what they're doing to keep the states moving on this. I still have one more hurdle. I have to get budget approval in February, but I don't anticipate that being an issue. Okay, let's move on if that's okay.
Great. If we can go ahead and move on to USDA specialty crop block grant.
Absolutely. I did look up some numbers really quickly for RFSI because 2.1 didn't sound right. Infrastructure grants are 2.8 and equipment grants are 1.2. I apologize for the inaccurate numbers earlier. As for the specialty crop block grant program, this is what I do. This is my bread and butter. This is, I am the coordinator for this program. So essentially what the specialty crop block grant program, or what I affectionately call specialty crop because that title is very long, it is used to enhance the competitiveness of specialty crops within the state of Oregon. This could be marketing, promotion, research, really the gamut on any of those crops. Specialty crops are fruits, vegetables, tree nuts, dried fruits, nursery crops, horticulture, etc. Essentially anything that is not livestock is a specialty crop. So here in Oregon, pretty much everything we produce, which is excellent. We get approximately $2 million every year. We are in a farm bill year, so we might see a fluctuation in that as USDA updates their algorithms. We got 1.9 million this year. We awarded several projects that we're really excited about that got started October 1. We will be opening for 2024 in December. December 1st is when I will send out a request for applications. We will close January 31st. Grant terms are 2.5 years, so 2.5 years. And awards range from $25,000 to $175,000. And again, these are grants that we're looking at enhancing an entire industry. These are not for one individual, one company, one organization. It really is for the betterment of the entire group. So thinking about, let's say, sending blueberries to Korea. We work with a lot of the commodity commissions. We have several grants with OSU doing some really interesting stuff as well. All of that to be said, again, the website is listed here and my email is listed here. We're excited about opening the grant again for 2024 here soon and seeing what applications we get. The other grant program that we didn't put in here, but I do want to highlight really quickly is the organic cost share reimbursement application. We didn't put it in because it's not really a grant to farmers in the way that most of these other grant programs are a grant. It is a reimbursement based application for those who have received their organic certification and need a reimbursement based on the amount that they spent on their organic certification that year. It's $750 or 75% based on how much they paid. So those are the 3 grant programs that I'm involved in. I wonder if there are any questions about specialty crop or organic cost share. I know I ran through this pretty quickly. I want to be conscious of our time.
Any questions?
I have a quick one, and that is Bill Ryan here, Acting Director. Gabrielle, it says here on the slide, 1.9 million was awarded for the 2023 fiscal year. So do we know what the award will be for 24?
No.
Or we're using the 1.9 for this coming cycle?
So 1.9 was awarded in 2023. So USDA releases their request for proposal about that March-ish, February-ish. But because our process takes so much longer, we have to go out for request for proposal in December. So we won't know how much money we'll get until that gets released. Most of the time, the 1.9 is pretty average, what we've received about the last 5 years. But that was what was awarded to our grantees this year for the 2023 year. So their projects, as I mentioned, started October 1 of 23. The 2024 projects will start October 1 of 24.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions? Thank you, Gabriel. We'll move on then to the Farm to School producer grant. Next.
All right, I will be presenting on this grant program. So as many of you are aware, we have a very popular farm to school program in the state, funded at about $10.8 million for the 2023-2025 biennium. More than 60% of those funds are to support schools and other eligible food sponsors in purchasing Oregon products. Anything grown, raised, harvested, caught, or processed in Oregon does qualify for that reimbursement. We have over 200 food sponsors or schools that are participating in the Farm to School program, and we have over 500 different types of agriculture businesses that have made sales to schools in the last 10 years under that program. So very popular program. I'm excited to go to the Eugene High School today with you all, and we're going to have a local lunch there and talk more about it. But this is one of the more newer grant programs within the framework for the Farm to School program in Oregon. And in this biennium, we did have a POPS to actually transfer this portion of the Farm to School fund over to ODA. This had previously been managed by the Department of Education, but to help streamline the program and just reduce some of those administrative hurdles, we thought it would be best if it sat here, and ODE agreed as well. So we did also receive double the funding that we've had from last bienniums. So the grant will be funded at $500,000 for this coming biennium. And really the intention of these dollars are to help producers and processors and fishers and ranchers with any equipment or financial needs for infrastructure like cold storage, things like that, that they might need to help get their products into a form that's more convenient for schools and food sponsors to use. And so we've seen tremendous success with the program. It's a relatively young grant program at ODA. It is also disbursement based, as these other programs are becoming. And again, this is something that a lot of organizations have been advocating for, is to provide these funds up front, especially to support some of our low and no capital farms and businesses that might just be getting started. It does have a matching requirement. So if you have been selling to schools for some time, there is a 20% match requirement in in-kind or cash donations. And if you're new to selling to schools, there's a 10% cash requirement or in-kind requirement. So this is one of our existing grantees, or 2023 grantees, just winding down actually, Deck Family Farm down in Junction City, and they've been growing or they've been raising poultry and parting that poultry for schools. And so they did buy a meat grinder and a broiler to get those parts in the right form for schools. And they also were able to get up to their licensed, the 20,000 bird state exemption under the license there for this project. So they're one of our outgoing grantees. And we hope to open the grant cycle soon. We've got a few changes that we're making. We are making it more explicit that tribal producers are eligible for these funds and can use these dollars to support tribal producers that are providing meals on reservations or in tribal communities, and a couple of other small tweaks. But essentially, that's what's going on with this program.
Okay, any questions of Amy? Director Boyer.
So Amy, the tribal piece was fascinating. You said just in the community, not necessarily schools?
That's correct. We are looking at allowing tribal producers to sell their products to native meal programs on the reservation. Most of the reservations are in vended meal agreements with adjacent districts. So most of the meals are being provided by the offerings of that neighboring school district. But oftentimes they do have meals that celebrate different cultural aspects of the tribe or the native group. And so we are allowing producers to be reimbursed or we are allowing the tribe to be reimbursed for those purchases. And most of those are in youth settings or education settings. A lot of them are actually already part of the CACFP program, the child food program. There's many Head Starts on reservations, and those are eligible entities for the benefit from ODE. But we're also looking at some other kind of adjacent allowances there.
Any further questions? Even though we've run out of time, I think we can definitely still spend some time. We've heard a lot about the meat grants, but let's go ahead and move on to that. Is that Jess, you're going to do that, or who is doing that?
Certainly talk about that. Good morning, everyone. For the record, Jess Paulson, Director of Market Access and Certification Programs. In our meeting, I believe it was in Roseburg, we described what the past round, the first round of the meat grant had looked like. The legislature awarded quite a bit more money in the next biennium, which is allowing us to offer $8.2 million in grants for 23-25. I'm hoping to get that application process kicked off today. We will be publishing the documents in English and in Spanish that includes the application guidelines and the scoring sheet that indicates for applicants what we are using for determination of kind of what what applications should be higher or lower scored or meeting our criteria. The original grant that I described when we were in Roseburg was only $2 million, and we really put that money towards expanding slaughter facilities and services in a diversity range across the state. We'll continue to look at those needs because that's the beginning of the supply chain for animal processing. But with the additional money, we're really hoping to find some more places to make sure that as we go from slaughter to kind of the processing, the cut and the wrap to get it into a form that is more consumer ready, and then into maybe some of the value add, that we're not increasing the number in one just to face another bottleneck as we go down that line. We have a deadline for the application of the 16th of January. Hopefully that's going to be giving people, there's never a good time of year for this to happen. We're trying to allow a good amount of time for people to put together a strong application, but also not to delay the process for making those awards, maximizing the amount of time throughout the rest of the biennium to do a disbursement. We've revised the rule to increase the amount of award to $750,000, reflecting the larger amount that we have available. And we've reserved the determination by the directors just how much we will do as an initial disbursement. We had done 75% in a previous round. We'll do up to 75%, but recognizing that we're going to be putting a lot of that money out at once, maybe not doing a full 75% if it's a $500,000 or $750,000 award.
Thank you,
Deputy
Jeff.
Director.
We'll wrap up real quickly. I'll just say I'm really excited about all of these programs. Really excited to bring back to the board at some point in time our success stories, and maybe even bring some folks that actually were benefactors of those dollars and what they've done. I can tell you, I went and had lunch at the meeting place and the meet grant with Casey. Enjoyed my lunch. It was really, I was just there to thank him for being the first and a pioneer for getting this program back up and started. But I have to say, I went into, well, they serve wonderful sandwiches there if you're ever there. But I went into his processing area just real briefly and looked at the amount of customers in there that were buying products from the meat case. I think he told me he was putting 5 to 7 animals a week in there that were local. And I was there on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and it looked a third gone. And he said, Lauren, by Friday, this will all be gone. So there's a need there. People want it and are willing to pay for that. And so I'm pretty excited about that and hope we can continue to build on this program. Thank you.
Great. Director Johnson, I think you had your hand up. So did you have a question? Shantae, we can't hear you.
Hi, everybody. Shantae Johnson here. I am really excited about this meat program, and I was curious about if it's going to be offered to local fishermen as well. Is that included for, facilities that meat that fish is processed at? Thinking about our indigenous fishermen. And then I guess my other question was about mobile butchers, since it's not like a set location. I know that folks are having a really hard time getting their, meat processed, it's getting backlogged and people have to reserve, with their butchers at least a year in advance. And so I was just curious about that, if it's going to apply for mobile butchers and also fish.
Go ahead, Jess.
Yeah, so we're Jess Paulson for the record, and Director Chair Miller and Director Johnson. The mobile is eligible, and to a degree, the project that Director Henderson was just mentioning it is part of a mobile program. He has a mobile vehicle that was part of his grant, and he's taking that to 2 different locations so that he's able to service a wider area within the area that he covers. I know that future plans, he's looking at expanding that to another part of the state. So yes, we're definitely looking at the utility of mobile to better reach those areas that need service. The grant unfortunately doesn't cover seafood. It's pretty specific to terrestrial protein. We do have some other programs that we're working on with seafood promotion, and that's really not working on the availability of resources for the fishermen or for the processors, but trying to reach more customers, whether within Oregon or we actually have one of our trade managers, Eric Garman, is in the Netherlands and the UK this week, continuing a promotion that we started last year, trying to build up utilization of Oregon seafood products in Europe.
Director Johnson, did that answer your question? Are you good?
I am. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Jess. Any other questions of board members? Again, thank you all for joining us even virtually, and we'll get to see some of you very soon.